I'm sorry, but I don't have time for this. I have other things to do.
Hold on,
Call
hold on.
somebody else. All right? Thank you very much. It's been interesting.
She's running. She is running. Get her back on the line, James. Tell her I am black and not to run. You know what it is for when you're black and you don't go for the crap.
Yep.
They don't know what to do. I think she's back. Jane? She hung up again.
All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to our channel. First of all, whenever we look at Jesse Lee Peterson, it's always going to be a good day. So Kara found this interview with Jane Elliott, and it was hilarious. But so yeah, anyways, she gets mad and basically just hangs up on him. So we're going to enjoy this together. All right, here we go.
I have with me Jane Elliott, and Jane is a former third grade teacher. She is an anti-racism activist and educator featured on Oprah for her Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes demonstration. She's going to tell you all about that.
Martin Luther King Jr. had been one of our heroes of the month in February in my third grade classroom, and he was dead at the hands of an assassin. I hate to talk about this because every time I talk about it, I remember how it felt that day. I was going to have to go into my classroom and explain to my students why the adults in this country had allowed somebody to kill hope. Because Martin Luther King, for me, was hope for this country.
And just, I want to thank one of our listeners of the show and a friend of the show, David from Cleveland, Ohio. He told us about Jane Elliott and asked what we have her on, and she is with us. Jane, good morning and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You were a third grade teacher, and when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, I've heard your story, but tell the folks how that affected you.
Well, he had been one of our heroes of the month in February in my third grade classroom and was assassinated in April, and I had no way to explain the hatred that assassinated him, the hatred in this community, in this society, in this country that allowed some fool to assassinate Martin Luther King Jr. I had to go into my classroom the next day and try to explain that to my students. I remembered vividly how the Nazis treated people who had brown eyes during the Second World War and before the Second World War, from 1933 until 1945. One of the ways he got thrown into the gas chamber in those years was by having the wrong color eyes. And I decided the next morning, if my students didn't understand what we were talking about when we discussed this thing, that not only would we learn the Sioux Indian prayer that says, "Oh, great Spirit, keep me from ever judging a man until I've walked a mile in his moccasins," not only would we learn that prayer, I decided to apply it for them. I decided to allow them to let them walk in the shoes of a child of color in my classroom for one day. I decided to use eye color as the thing that determined whether you were smart or dumb, whether you're worthwhile or worthless, whether you were valuable or without value, whether you were good or bad. I didn't know how this exercise would work. If I had known how it would work, I wouldn't have done it.
And
because
the things
that happened to my students were horrible. The things that happened to my offspring were absolutely horrible. The things that happened to my students as a result of that exercise were wonderful.
The third grade were all white. Were they all white kids? White kids only in the class?
Of course, they're as white as you can be. All from, Norwegian and Germanic extraction.
And how old were they at the time? The third graders?
8.5 years old. They came in. Yeah, they were about between 8 and 9 years old.
And so, why did you find it necessary to teach kids about racism? Because
my dad would say, a fair thing is a pretty thing, and a right wrongs no man. Racism is wrong. You cannot treat people positively or negatively on the basis of the amount of chemical in their skin and not be wrong. It was wrong. It was
That's really just implanting something in their brains at this point. Because kids at that age are not thinking about racism. That's so heavy. That's so heavy. And kids that age are not thinking about racism. So when you go and make a special, experiment, highlighting racism when they prior weren't even thinking about it, I feel like that's implanting an idea in their head already. Like you're already starting to cloud their minds.
She used assassination of a black civil rights leader.
Yeah.
And she didn't know how to explain that to kids.
Yes.
Or why adults would allow somebody to be. But, I believe JFK was assassinated before Martin Luther King.
Yeah, so...
Did she have a hard time explaining to that?
Right.
I don't understand why she didn't feel that a white man being assassinated...
shouldn't be highlighted either.
It wasn't just as bad as anybody being assassinated.
And JFK was beloved by black people.
In opposition to everything that I believed as a Christian, a practicing Christian. I'm practicing. Someday I'll have it right, but I don't have it right yet. But you cannot. There is no religion, as far as I know of, on the face of the earth that says it's all right to kill people because they have the wrong skin color or the wrong eye color or the wrong religion.
So you went into your classroom and you took the third graders, 8 and 9 years old, and you discriminated against the blue eye by being kind to the brown eyes, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was more than kind to the brown eyes. I was unkind to the blue eyes. Racism, and we got to stop calling it racism because there's only one race on the face of the earth. We are all members of the same.
What happened to the blacks that they're so corrupt and out of control right now?
They aren't corrupt and out of control, all of them. A few of them are.
No, not all, you're right. Most, not all, you're right.
Yeah. Well, let's quit saying, well, these blacks are out of control. If I were being treated in this country the way black people are being treated, I'd be corrupt and out of control. I'd be out of control, and I'd be as corrupt as the white people are who are doing it to them.
So right there, she's giving the thumbs up for black people to be out of control when something happens, as we see with the police shootings. It's okay to basically go and start riots. She's giving permission, basically. You're supposed to be upset because you're black and you're oppressed, right? So she really is giving, by saying that, she's saying that that's why black people are out of control. That's why they're having a hard time. They're allowed to be that way. I would be that way too. That's giving permission to not have any tact.
Yeah, she's definitely a Marxist, and
Right.
she definitely gives black people a pass for
Big pass.
For just anything that they may do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The truth is that the country did have some race problems. We
Yes.
don't really have it anymore, but she is right. There were race problems during the time that she's talking about, but there also were other things that people could have done, like the Great Depression. That affected everybody. So what you're just saying is because people were treated a certain way,
Right.
because of a certain circumstance, that they have the right to rob, cheat, and steal,
Right.
because they're being treated a certain way. Well, what do you say to white people during the Great Depression when they were sitting in soup lines and couldn't go to work? Or is it okay to just kill people and steal from them?
They get the same pass and permission? Is it warranted?
Because
of
the governments, the banks failed them, so
Yeah.
would that have been okay?
So have riots and
You know what I'm saying?
and steal and loot. Like I said before, it's just kind of giving the green light to act a fool when something doesn't go your way if you're black. She's giving you the right to do that. So I'm uncomfortable with that because I know what's happened. This is an older clip, I guess an older interview.
I think she did it 5 years,
I think it's
6 years ago.
Yeah, it's a little bit older. And so when we fast forward to what's been going on now with looting, smash and grabs, riots, all this behavior going on, it's very irresponsible. I guess that's my word. Okay. It's irresponsible, I think, of her to say that.
You cannot treat people badly. Well, I was teaching third grade, and when we went through that exercise, the thing that scared me the most about the exercise was the day those brown-eyed kids were on the top, they acted the way the white adults in their environment have taught them to behave. Robert Burns said, if some great power the gifts could give us to see ourselves as others see us, on that day I saw in my brown-eyed students who behaving the way they had seen me behave, They were teaching me how I look to other people.
Tell the
I
folks
got an
what some of the
opportunity
things.
that day to see what.
Tell the folks what you did. Some of the things you did to discriminate against the blue eyes.
I made the blue-eyed people sit in the back of the room because everybody knows that blue-eyed people are disruptive and they can't learn anyways. They might as well sit in the back of the room. I made them go last in lunch line because, you know, if they go first, they'll eat too much. I made them I gave the brown-eyed people 5 extra minutes of recess because they're all so bright that they deserve all these good things. I made the blue-eyed people couldn't be role leaders for the day because obviously they couldn't be good leaders. You don't want a blue-eyed person leading you because all blue-eyed people are not to be trusted. I was absolutely amazed. I separated my group according to the color of their eyes. I made the blue-eyed people wear armbands, which is what the Nazis did to the Jews during the Holocaust. I treated them as we treat on a daily basis in this country people of color, or those with whom we disagree, or those who have a physical characteristic over which they have no control, which offends us. We treat them in an offensive manner, and I watched my brilliant blue-eyed students, some of whom were, I'm telling you, brilliant, become unable to learn. I watched brown-eyed dyslexic boys read words they had never been able to read before and spell words they had never been able to spell. And it was because for all of a sudden they had magic eyes, they could do no wrong. Everything they did that was right, I praised them for, and they couldn't do anything wrong because any problem they had was because they had to sit beside a blue-eyed person. Any mistake they made was because they had had blue-eyed teachers before me. And as one of my third-grade students reminded me, every once in a while, well, you're blue-eyed, how do you know anything? I learned that you can tell somebody they're superior, treat them as if they are superior, and turn them into superior beings, superior learners, superior achievers. I learned that you can tell somebody they are an underachiever and that they are inferior, and they will live down to your expectations of them.
What did the
And that's
parents?
what we're doing in this country.
What did the parents say when they found out you had done this to their children?
Not a thing.
That's amazing. Because
No,
when I read this story, I was saddened by it because it seemed as though your overreaction to Martin Luther King assassination caused you to go into your classroom and traumatize other kids who had nothing to do with it.
Right.
That's nonsense.
How's that nonsense?
If it's nonsense to do this exercise based on eye color with a white child for one day, if that's traumatizing, what does it do to children of color if you do it with them pre-birth and after death for an entire lifetime? You want to talk about traumatizing?
But it's not right to make those kids suffer for something that other people are doing. One wrong doesn't make another one right.
Yeah, Jesse is right here. I think she had an overreaction to Martin Luther King's assassination. It's not to be. I'm not diminishing his the assassination of Martin Luther King at all. You know, but it is interesting to see that the reaction she had was very erratic.
But she's right too. She's right in the fact that when you tell people that everything that is wrong with their life is someone else's problem, the kids in the class reacted exactly like that. Yeah. So she's saying that she gave an excuse to the brown-eyed kids whenever they did something wrong, and they reacted exactly like that. They started to feel more superior. Right. So if you do that to white people, they do that. Yes. Now we're doing that to black people. Everything that goes wrong in a black person's life is now a white person's fault. Yeah. So she's right. Now, we've given excuse to the black community that everything that happens to us happened because of white people, so we don't learn. Right. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So, but what she's attempting to do is what I believe she was attempting to do that really isn't being said, is she's attempting to introduce CRT to these children at 8 years old. Right. In her own way. That's what she's doing. You know what I mean? And this is why CRT is so bad. Because what it does is it makes kids, particularly little kids, because CRT is usually talked about in law school and college. But when you introduce it to grade school kids, they absorb it. And they don't really understand, life yet because they're so young. You make them feel, especially if they're white, you're making them feel like there's something inherently wrong with them because they are white. You know what I'm saying? Like you're making it seem like black people can't make it, and white people are just privileged. So it hurts both races. And so that at that age though is so much different than being an older person, because
kids absorb really everything. And because she's an authority figure, which would be a teacher, she's the authority in that situation, they're going to take her word for it. Because why wouldn't you?
Right. And this is probably public school.
So, yeah.
And so,
I think it is
you know,
public school, yeah.
public school was always made for this. It was always
To indoctrinate.
Yeah. Kids, because before this, most kids were either homeschooled or taught in the one-room school houses, which were better educational places. Once the government got a hold of our schooling system, then they started to be able to shape our minds. Women started going to work, then the schools had free range of your children. And then you get a teacher like this, who is able to run amok with your child's mind.
She's doing experiments on. She's doing
She
all.
is, basically.
It's not even like the experiments that she's doing are researched. Really, she was just trying it out.
And you know, women
It's
like
kind of
this.
weird.
When I've done slight research on women like Jane Elliott, because Jane Elliott had a hard life.
Yeah.
I think at one point she said she ate oranges. Her family ate oranges. Their skin turned orange. They ate so many oranges. So poorly, she had a hard life. Gloria Steinem had a mother that was mentally ill, and she had a hard life. You know what I mean?
Hillary Clinton
had a hard
time.
So all of these women that had what's her name? The Planned Parenthood lady. Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger came from a really hard life, which is why she wanted abortion so bad and to control your life. You know what I mean? These women that talk like this, whether you're Hillary Clinton, you're her, these women came from tough times where their minds were altered young. You know what I mean? So they're not coming from a place of, to me, they're not coming from a place of sanity.
Right.
They're coming from an extremist place because they came from an extremist situation.
To educate someone, the word educate, but I'm an educator. An educator, to educate someone, means to lead them out of ignorance. My students were totally ignorant about racism, which is actually colorism. They were totally ignorant about that. They used the N-word indiscriminately because they had been taught that it was right to treat people that way, and because they had never been on the receiving end of that treatment. They got educated that way in a way that changed the way they lived their lives to this day.
That's amazing.
And it changed the way their parents behaved in the home.
What is racism? What is racism?
Racism is treating people positively or negatively on the basis of the color of their skin and having the power to institutionalize your treatment and your behavior. Without power, racism wouldn't work, which is the reason white people are suffering from skin scare today. They are scared to death that people of color are going to become the numerical majority in this country, and they are, and that those people of color are going to want to treat us the way we have treated them.
But you
we
notice,
need to get over skin scare.
You notice that where blacks are taking over, Detroit, Baltimore, other Gary, Indiana, other urban areas, wherever these blacks are taking over, they are racist, and they are turning those areas into, I mean, just hell and damnation. Nothing good is coming from them taking over these cities. Have you noticed that?
I haven't. Wait a minute. We can use skin color as the excuse for what's happening in places like Detroit and deny the fact that we have taken the good jobs out of places like Detroit and sent them overseas to be done by people of color who will work for a whole lot less than union members will in the United States. If you have no opportunity for employment, it's very difficult to be pleasant.
But if that's the case, why is it that only blacks, because there are other cultures that live in this country, why are they the one going wild and killing each other and abortion out of control and out of wedlock birth? Why are they the only ones acting this way? And when there are other cultures
They are not the only
here?
ones acting this way. I don't know where you're getting your statistics, but you need to read Andrew Hacker's book, Two Nations, Separate and Black and White, Separate and Unequal. You need to read that book, and you need to read the statistics for today. It is not only blacks who are killing people.
So this is where this is where white liberals get on my nerves, because what she's doing is saying that black people don't have agency.
Yeah.
So I don't care if the country is run by white people.
Yeah.
In your home, in your specific home, you have agency, which means that you have the choice to sleep around.
Yep, free will.
There are things that you are in control of as a person, not a black or a white, but just as a human being. You have the choice to be a drug addict. You have the choice to not look for a job. You have the choice to sleep around. And what she's going to do is, what she does is she blames the white man for everything. But then when someone tells her that happens to be black, and they put their and they say, no, I am responsible for myself. She doesn't want you to have responsibility for yourself. So what she does is create a because now all of a sudden, now I don't know why we're using race.
Yeah. That's
what she's saying. I know we're using race now. Why not? Why? Because now you have to tell black people that they have to be responsible for the things that they bring into their life. We have black people running cities that are run down, and so now they do have power in a lot of these cities, and the cities couldn't be worse. And now she doesn't want to say that they're wrong.
Yeah.
She's still blaming a system.
Yeah.
And I believe that she's like, I think that she's like she said, I think that what they think is that what white people think is that black people are going to become the majority and we're going to treat it back. No, I think that's what you think.
That's what
and you're trying to get ahead of it.
Because
you're trying to make sure that I always said, she's afraid. To me, she's afraid of black people.
I think, but that's why I think that she's trying to keep black people oppressed. She's kept the shackles on black people's minds. I think that she's doing that, and it's kind of like she's sneaky about it because she doesn't want black people to think for themselves, so she's trying to keep those mental shackles on you by saying stuff like it's not their fault, it's all the white people's fault. But again, like Kara's saying, once a black person says, usually a black Republican conservative will say, no, I'm in charge of myself. And, should they get uncomfortable? This happens with a lot of white liberals where they get really uncomfortable when black people start thinking for themselves.
White liberals like black people until black people don't need them.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they become exactly how she becomes. Angry, frustrated with you, and she doesn't know how to go beyond the feelings aspect.
Now her whole career has been built over this race thing, and now she's scared to talk about race. Now she's shying away about race now.
And which, by the way, that is a big market in the liberal community.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that black people that support her, like the Oprahs, Jada Pinkett Smith loves her. All these people just adore this woman. It's because that they're able to now say, see, a white lady's over here. Look, y'all, a white lady saying it. That white people are racist. There's white privilege. See, so they're being fooled. They're being fooled, and they're regurgitating what she's saying.
Well, it's not only blacks who are out of control. Blacks are not out of control.
Well, what other culture in this country that's out of control?
Well, white culture.
How are they out of control?
They are causing people to live in conditions that they would not want to live in. They are allowing 1% of the population to have over 50% of the wealth in this country. They are sending jobs overseas, which should be done by all kinds of people in this country. We are using our power to maintain a state of war in many places in the world so that we can control oil. This is all about power. And we are doing with people of color in this country what we do with people of color all over the world.
If that's true, how do you explain?
We aren't the only ones to do this. But this country is the one I live in and I'm responsible for, and I have to teach children of all ages that we must not allow the situation to continue in which we blame, in which we talk about a black problem. We don't have a black problem. We have a white attitudinal and behavioral problem. When white people get over their attitude toward people of color, that will solve the problem.
How do you explain, well, two things I want to ask. One thing, the first is that had I been a parent and found out that you did that to my child, in the third grade, which is 8 or 9 years old, traumatized my child in that manner, I would have sued you and the school.
Right.
And you would have lost.
Why?
Because what would have happened then, if you had done that, what would have happened then, every black parent in the United States of America could have sued every school, private, public, and parochial, for the way their children are being treated in the classroom.
That's ridiculous. So you feel nothing about what you did to those children?
I didn't do to those children. I did for those children.
By traumatizing them?
I didn't traumatize them. Are you traumatized by what's happened to you in this country?
Not at all. I was never traumatized. Let me tell you this.
Black?
I am as black as the ace of spades. But let me ask you this.
If you're as black as the ace of spades and haven't felt any discrimination in this country, You're walking around with blinders and
See, that makes so that makes the white liberal uncomfortable when you say, racism is not prevalent in society today, right? When you say that, this makes them really nervous because they need you to believe. This is a ploy. They need you to believe that that you should fear, when the cops pull up on you when they pull you over. You should fear any kind of authority figure. You should fear the white man. You should fear it, right? And when Jesse says stuff like, "Oh, no, I don't have any. It doesn't bother me at all," or when we say that, "I don't have that issue." You know what I mean? Like if you're racist, that's your problem. It's not my problem. You know what I mean? So I feel like she's getting uncomfortable because he's saying that. Because he's like, no, it doesn't bother me at all. Jesse's successful. He comes from a very, a poor background, and he's successful.
Yeah.
So what is she talking about? There's many Jesse Lee Peterson. There's many black men and women who are extremely successful.
Oprah. She was on Oprah's show.
In this alleged racist country, right? In this alleged racist country, there are so many black people who are successful. And you guys want to say successful? I'm not even necessarily talking about money or position. I'm talking about successful as in family. They've lived a nice comfortable life. They're rich with love and they're in their communities. They give back. I'm talking about successful in every sense of the word, including wealth, black wealth. You know what I mean? Including that. And so my thing is that it doesn't hold, what she's saying doesn't hold water because of that. Because we do have black prosperity. We have it.
Well, because as long as they keep you in an emotional state, you will you will pull the lever for the party. She is right. It is about power.
It is. That's true.
It's about absolute power.
But from who?
But from who?
But from who? That's the thing. It's like, but from who? Because this is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I mean, the Republicans are just as weak. They do weak stuff too. But what I'm saying is that this whole thing, with all of this emotion and feelings and indoctrination, this all comes from the far left, and everybody knows it. You know what I mean? Right. And it's been going on for a really, 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 really. And
they want to start very. They want to start very, very young because when you can indoctrinate children, the idea is to empty their brains so you can insert new ideas, and it works because they're children. They absorb things, and again they go with whatever the authority says.
And you're with your ears and your eyes and your nose closed.
Most of the discrimination I've had to encounter was from other black people. But let me ask, if what
where
you're saying...
Where do other black people learn to discriminate against black people?
From their black leadership.
Oh, you think so?
Without a doubt.
Does the black leadership run the television business in this country?
You don't have to. You don't need to run anything to be a racist.
Churches in this country. You can't if you don't have a racist child. Put that child in front of television for several hours a day. At the end of a month, you'll have a child who knows how to be a racist.
Let me ask you this: if what you're saying is true, when I was growing up, I grew up on a plantation. I'm 66 years old now. I grew up on a plantation. I grew up under the Jim Crow law down in Alabama. We had to work in cotton fields and doing all those things. Why do you... Hold on for a minute. I want you to ask...
This is what they do as well. Liberals left, they don't let you talk anymore. Once they realize they are now defeated, once they realize that they weren't able to push off this ideology and this narrative into this particular black man's mind, now she's not going to let him talk. She doesn't. This is what they do. This is what they do.
Yeah.
Why do you see
you're saying...
I'm not going
to answer that until you answer this.
No, but hold on, Jane. Jane, yeah, I'll answer that after you answer this. Why do you see black on black crime, black unemployment, black out of wedlock birth, abortion, and all the garbage that we see now? If racism was an issue, why didn't we see it more back then than we do today?
I think that in this country today and for the last 400 years...
Hold that thought. Let me take a break. Hold that thought. I'll let you smoke on that for a minute. Jane, let me ask, are you a Christian?
Is that any of your business?
It is.
Are you a Christian?
I am, 100%.
Well, then start acting like one.
You don't want to answer that question as to whether you're a Christian or not?
It doesn't bother me to admit that I'm a Christian.
Okay.
I'm a practicing Christian. I'm going to keep on practicing till I get it right. I don't have it right yet.
So
But
you
that's
must...
what, when you talk about your school that is going to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, instead of teaching the 3 R's of reading, writing, and arithmetic, you better start teaching the 3 R's of reason, rights, and responsibility. We're not acting in a reasonable or a right or a responsible manner in this country, and the people who are running the show. And
so, do you see that? This is white supremacy.
Yeah.
See, we think white supremacy is, we think it's these white people that own everything and tell us what to do, because black people own a lot too. There are a lot of rich black people too. No, this is white supremacy, because do you see how she's talking to him? She's telling him how to think and how to feel, and if you don't do that, she's not going to let you talk. And that's why she said before, she said, no, you're going to answer my question. Her responsibility is, until you take a knee to white supremacy, you aren't being responsible to your people. You know what I mean? Taking up for yourself and building your own life and being married before you have kids. You know, hey, that can't happen for you.
Which is all he's promoting.
That's all he's promoting.
That's all he just said.
But she won't let him do that because she wants him to feel exactly like George Floyd. Because like that guy said, Vincent, he said this is they want blacks to be that. That's how they feel blacks are. This is why Kamala Harris went and promoted hip hop, because they like blacks to be like hip hop people. Calling each other whores and bees and N-words and doing drugs and promoting drugs and becoming George Floyd and all. This is what they want blacks, and she doesn't like it. Here's a black successful man telling her that you don't run me, and neither does your race or this country. I have agency over myself. She doesn't like that because she's a supremacist. See, they're the racists. The racists, see, that's what I say. Whatever they call you is what they are. When people call us Uncle Tom, it's because they're the Uncle Toms.
Who are exemplars of the way to live are, for the most part, the vast majority of them are white people. They're running the country. And as long as you can keep a group of people down, they'll live down to your expectations of them. You're in the business of blaming the victim. It's time to put a stop to that.
You must be pretty upset at the radical homosexuals for going after the Christians and trying to force them to accept a lifestyle that goes against God and the Christian values. That is discrimination like none I've ever seen. So you must be pretty upset at those folks, right?
I'm pretty upset at Christians who say there's only one way to live. I'm pretty upset at Christians who say deny how God made you and become the way I will accept you. That's what I'm upset about.
Why do you think God made homosexuals?
I'm upset that Christians totally ignore God is love. They totally ignore judge not that ye be not judged. They totally ignore insomuch as ye have done it unto one of these my children, so have ye done it unto me. They totally ignore the verses in the Bible which say, and when you pray, do not pray on the street corner or in the synagogue as the Pharisees do, but when you pray, go into your closet and after you have closed the door,
are you
pray
upset?
to your Father in heaven, and He will answer you publicly.
Are you upset at the radical? Are you upset at the radical?
Those are not radical ideas. Jesus was radical in His day.
Are you upset at the radical homosexuals for going after Christians?
I'm upset at radical Christians for going after homosexuals.
Oh, you got it wrong. You got it backwards.
Well, one of us has it wrong.
That's you.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, that's true.
Everybody has an opinion. The opinions
Let me ask you
everybody
this.
has.
Are you upset about
No, I am not going to defend the homosexual lifestyle, and I'm not going to defend Christianity, and I'm not going to defend Buddhism. I'm not going to defend somebody else's religious beliefs, and I'm not going to attack somebody else's religious beliefs. Now, if you want to talk about religion, call somebody else.
But you are
if you want to talk about colorism and the damage that has been done to people of color and people of all colors, including white people, by the idiocy of believing that skin color makes you a better or worse person. If you want to talk about that, I'll talk about that. Other
How do
than
you
that, I'm not interested in this conversation.
Jane, calm
okay?
down.
Listen,
Calm down,
call
Jane.
somebody else.
Jane, calm down.
No,
How do
no,
you
you can call me
explain?
Ms. Elliott. Only my friends call me Jane. You
Jane.
can call me Ms. Elliott.
Jane.
And you've proven that you are not one of my...
So did you see that?
You can call me Miss Elliott.
You can call me Miss Elliott. People who run around saying words
liberals.
like coon and white supremacy, they're the people that are the problem. This is why I say to white people, don't be afraid of being called racist. Don't feel like you got to back down. Because the people who are calling you that are usually the ones that are.
Yeah. It's a badge of honor at this point.
If you know what I'm saying?
So at the beginning of this, she was okay with him saying Jane, and now that she's being defeated and she's being challenged by this black man, she's mad now. So now
Can't control him.
Now it's time to call me Miss Elliott. That's what she said.
And you know what he's really doing to her? He's making a liar of her.
Yeah, he does this. He's very good.
Because he's very calm. He's a good interviewer.
Yeah.
You know, Jesse. I don't think Jesse gets enough credit for his interviewing
His
skills
skills,
because I think that he does something unique where he doesn't get rattled.
Hey,
Jane, you're out of control. Calm down. Let me ask.
Here.
Let me ask you.
No one
Hey.
says to me, you're out of control,
But
calm
you
down,
are.
because they don't like what I'm
She's out of
saying.
control.
I'm sorry, but I don't have time for this. I have other things to do.
Hold on,
Call
hold on.
somebody else.
Hey,
All right? Thank
hey.
you very much. It's been interesting.
She's running. She is running. Well, I be darned. Get her back on the line, James.
Okay.
Tell her don't run. Lord. Tell her I'm black. Tell her I am black and not to run. You know what it is for when you're black and you don't go for the crap.
Yep.
They don't know what to do.
Yep.
Uh-huh. And see, you ask them real questions about Christianity and all that. She supported the homosexual, but not the Christians.
Yeah.
I want to know, why didn't we see all this stuff happening in the black families and black communities when racism really existed based on color only? We didn't see this stuff happening. And she's all up on Oprah show doing her little experiment. What an idiot.
Oh my God.
I think she's back. Jane? She hung up again.
You know how embarrassed I mean when we did that.
So I mean,
Oh man.
you know, this is what it is, though, people. Like this is what it's when you debate people or you give them something real, or you don't give them your feelings first.
Yeah.
They are weak.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? They are weak. They really don't have anything to give you.
Yep.
But that. I mean,
Why do you think people like Larry Elder stick with facts, stats, data?
that's why that Larry Elder thing with Charlemagne. By the way, that picture that they took of Larry Elder and Charlemagne, at the end of that, they were all mad. They had mean faces, but they took a picture with Jane Elliott.
Yeah.
And they were all hugging her.
Yeah.
And Charlemagne was, because they love.
All smiles.
There's nothing more than a liberal black man loves than a white woman who's willing to throw her own race under
That's
the
what I
bus
was saying before.
over and over again.
That's what I was saying before, is that a lot of black people just big this woman up and they love her so much. And she's so great and wonderful. And they're only saying that because she is saying, white people are racist. And they're like, look, I told you.
But when you really press them
Yeah.
on stuff, when you are a black person that has agency over yourself,
Yeah.
and you know that you are free because of God,
Yeah.
and no man is about to run you or anything like a woman, you know what I mean? When they get that feeling from you, they do exactly what
They
she did.
run.
This woman has been a part of the civil rights movement since the civil rights movement. She has been educating kids since the 50s.
Yeah.
And so you would think she would have more backbone, but what this shows you is that she's used to the echo chamber.
Yeah.
She's used to being around people like Angela Davis and people who think like that. You know what I mean? The instant she's out of her comfort zone and she has to be around people who don't think like her, she runs. She actually said that when he said, with all the crime that happens in the black community, and she actually said, where do you think they learn it from? They learn it from the white people. What?
What?
I mean, she just blames
blames the
everything.
white.
It's suspect.
And
Because
it's not.
You're
She doesn't
saying
mean
a race
that.
of people are bad inherently because they're white, not because of anything other than that. They're white, but she's not racist. My grandmother was married to a black man during this time, And she would tell us all the time. She's like, no, there was racism. She was like, but you know, black and white people can be very nasty.
Yeah. Our grandmother,
You know what I mean?
our grandmother, she was kind of like a spitfire. Like
Yeah.
but she couldn't be more white. My grandma, our grandmother was German and Irish.
Yeah.
You can't get whiter than that, right? But you know, she would look at this woman and say,
Girl, shut up.
Girl, shut up. That's what my grandmother would say to this woman. You sound dumb. She does. She sounds stupid. And you need to leave these little kids alone. That's what she would say. She would say, you need to leave these little kids alone. It's just, to me, it's just not prevalent anymore. And I don't know where people are getting these ideas. I feel like it's like people are almost excited. Black people get almost excited about racism. Even white people, white liberals, about racism. You know what I mean? They need it to be there.
Yeah.
They need there to be racism. You know, Jane Elliott, without racism, she does not have books or seminars.
Or a job. She's
Or a
just
job.
a lady sitting there running her mouth. And
So
the
if
thing
we all
is that-
evolve, then
right.
she has no...
And we have evolved.
Yeah,
That's
she
the
has
reason.
no
That's
opinion.
what drives them crazy. Is
Yeah.
that this isn't 1965 anymore.
Right.
This isn't 1865 anymore. And they don't really have anything to land on.
Right,
And so they just
exactly.
keep on going with this sort. And Marxists, by the way, I said Marxists. They come in all colors.
Yep, it's true.
There are a lot of black Marxists in this country,
Right.
but they come in all colors, and they go where chaos is.
Mm-hmm.
Because we put black people and we've gotten black people to a point where they can't critically think anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like white people then God
Yeah.
for black people, for most black people. White people are supreme, and we have to take them down. You know what I mean? And it's just like we have to do it any means necessary. And it's just like, while you're doing that, you're missing out on your life.
Right. Yeah, let's know what you think about this. You guys, we have a playlist of Jesse Lee Peterson reactions. If you guys want, I'll put it above if you guys want to see that. But yeah, let's know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you have not yet. And that's it. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.